Hello and welcome to this second look exploring session looking at Tamburlaine the Great by Christopher Marlowe. It is sometimes known as Tamburlaine the Great Part 1, but, he doesn't necessarily know he's writing Part 2 yet, so we're just going to call it Tamburlaine the Great because he's, we'll find out how great Tamburlaine is in a bit. We have read this a long time ago at the very beginning of our Zoom sessions, so this is a refresher, and just to note that the reading group, as it is just who has signed up this week and who was available, and then we threw a play at them. So this hasn't been cast, so nobody here is particularly appropriate for anyone they're reading. This is an exercise in finding out how the play functions, and that's what we're going to do. So this wonderful group of readers are going to be reading the play. We won't announce them all now because we don't have time. We need to crack on. It's a long text. So without further ado, I would like to ask the prologue to Prologue, please.
From jigging veins of rhyming mother wits, and such conceits as clownage keeps in pay, will lead you to the stately tent of war, where you shall hear the Scythian Tamburlaine threatening the world with high astounding terms, and scourging kingdoms with his conquering sword. View but his picture in this tragic glass, and then applaud his fortunes as you please.
Brother Cosroe, I find myself aggrieved, yet insufficient to express the same, for it requires a great and thundering speech. Good brother, tell the cause unto my lords. I know you have a better wit than I.
Unhappy Persia, that in former age had been the seat of mighty conquerors, that in their prowess and their policies have triumphed over Afric and the bounds of Europe, where the sun dare scarce appear for freezing meteors and congealed cold, now to be ruled and governed by a man, at whose birthday Cynthia with Saturn joined, and Jove the sun and Mercury denied, to shed their influence in his fickle brain. Now Turks and Tartars shake their swords at thee, meaning to mangle all thy provinces.
Brother, I see your meaning well enough, and through your planets I perceive you think I am not wise enough to be a king. But I refer me to my noblemen that know my wit and can be witnesses, that I might command you to be slain by this. Meander, might I not?
Not for so small a fault, my sovereign lord.
I mean it not, yet, no, I might, yet live, yea, live, Mycetes wills it so. Meander, thou, my faithful counsellor, declare the cause of my conceived grief, which is, God knows, about that Tamburlaine that like a fox in midst of harvest time doth prey upon my flocks of passengers, and as I hear doth mean to pull my plumes, therefore 'tis good and meet for to be wise.
Oft have I heard your majesty complain of Tamburlaine, that sturdy Scythian thief, that robs your merchants of Persepolis, trading by land into the Western Isles, and in your confines with his lawless train daily commits incivil outrages, hoping, misled by dreaming prophecies, to reign in Asia, with barbarous arms to make himself the monarch of the East. But dare he march in Asia, or display his vagrant ensign in the Persian fields, your grace has taken order by Theridamas, charged with 1,000 horse, to apprehend and bring him captive to your highness' throne.
Full true thou speakst, and like thyself, my lord, whom I may term a daemon for thy love. Therefore 'tis best, if so like it you all, to send my 1,000 horse incontinent to apprehend that paltry Scythian. How like you this, my lords? Is it not a kingly resolution?
It cannot choose, because it comes from you.
Then hear thy charge, valiant Theridamas, the chiefest captain of Mycetes' host, the hope of Persia, and the very legs whereon our state doth lean as on a staff, that holds us up and foils our neighbour foes. Thou shalt be leader of this 1,000 horse, whose foaming goal with rage and high disdain hath sworn the death of wicked Tamburlaine. Go frowning forth, but come thou smiling home, as did Sir Paris with the Grecian dame. Return with speed, Time passeth swift away. Our life is frail, and we may die today.
Before the moon renew her borrowed light, doubt not, my lord and gracious sovereign, but Tamburlaine and that Tartarian rout shall either perish by our warlike hands, or plead for mercy at your highness' feet.
Go, stout Theridamas, thy words are swords, and with thy looks thou conquerest all thy foes. I long to see thee return from thence, that I may view these milk-white steeds of thine, all loaden with the heads of killed men, and from their knees even to their hoofs below, besmeared with blood that makes a dainty show.
Then now, my lord, I humbly take my leave.
Theridamas, farewell 10,000 times. Menaphon, why stayest thou thus behind when other men pass forward for renown? Go, Menaphon, go into Scythia, and foot by foot follow Theridamas.
Nay, pray you, let him stay. A greater task fits Menaphon than warring with a thief. Create him prorex of all Africa, that he may win the Babylonians' hearts, which will revolt from Persian government, unless they have a wiser king than you.
Unless they have a wiser king than you. These are his words, Meander, set them down.
And add this to them, that all Asia lament to see the folly of their king.
Well, here I swear by this my royal seat.
You may do well to kiss it then.
Embossed with silk as best beseems my state, to be revenged for these contemptuous words. Oh, where is duty and allegiance now? Fled to the Caspian or the ocean main? Which I call thee? Brother? No, a foe. Monster of nature, shame unto thy stock, that darest presume thy sovereign for to mock. Meander, come, I am abused, Meander.
How now, my lord? What, mated and amazed to have the king thus threatened like himself?
Ah, Menaphon, I pass not for his threats. The plot is laid by Persian noblemen, the captains of the Median garrisons, to crown me emperor of Asia. And this it is that doth excruciate the very substance of my vexed soul, to see our neighbours that were wont to quake and tremble at the Persian monarch's name, now sit and laugh our regiment to scorn. And that which might resolve me into tears, men from the furthest equinoctial line have swarmed in troops into the eastern India, lading their ships with gold and precious stones, and made their spoils from all our provinces.
This should entreat your highness to rejoice, since fortune gives you opportunity to gain the title of a conqueror by curing of this maimed empery. Afric and Europe bordering on your land and continent to your dominions, how easily may you, with a mighty host, pass into Graecia, as did Cyrus once, and cause them to withdraw their forces home, lest you subdue the pride of Christendom.
Beep, beep, beep. But Menaphon, what means this trumpet sound?
Behold, my lord, Ortygius and the rest, bringing the crown to make you emperor.
Magnificent and mighty Prince Cosroe, we, in the name of other Persian states and commons of this mighty monarchy, present thee with the imperial diadem.
The warlike
That is Rachel.
The warlike soldiers and the gentlemen that heretofore have filled Persepolis with Afric captains taken in the field, whose ransom made them march in coats of gold, with costly jewels hanging at their ears and shining stones upon their lofty crests, now living idle in the walled towns, wanting both pay and martial discipline, being in troops to threaten civil war, and openly exclaim against their king. Therefore, to stay all sudden mutinies, we will invest your highness emperor, whereat the soldiers will conceive more joy than did the Macedonians at the spoil of great Darius and his wealthy host.
Well, since I see the state of Persia droop and languish in my brother's government. I willingly receive the imperial crown and vow to wear it for my country's good. In spite of them shall malice my estate.
And in assurance of desired success, we here do crown thee monarch of the East, Emperor of Asia and Persia, great lord of Media and Armenia, Duke of Africa and Albania, Mesopotamia and of Parthia, East India, and the late discovered isles, chief lord of all the wide, vast Euxine Sea, and of the ever-raging Caspian Lake.
Long
Live Cosroe, mighty emperor!
mighty emperor!
And Jove may never let me longer live than I may seek to gratify your love and cause the soldiers that thus honor me to triumph over many provinces, by whose desires of discipline in arms I doubt not shortly, but to reign sole king. And with the army of Philemus, whither we presently will fly, my lords, to rest secure against my brother's force.
We knew, my lord, before we brought the crown, intending your investiture so near the residence of your despised brother, the lords would not be too exasperate to injury or suppress your worthy title. Or, if they would, there are in readiness 10,000 horse to carry you from hence, in spite of all suspected enemies.
I know it well, my lord, and thank you all.
Sound up the trumpets, then. God save the king!
God save the king!
Come, lady, let not this appall your thoughts. The jewels and treasure we have ta'en shall be reserved, and you in better state than if you were arrived in Syria, even in the circle of your father's arms, the mighty Soldan of Egyptia.
Our shepherd, pity my distressed plight, if as thou seem'st thou art so mean a man, and seek not to enrich thy followers by lawless rapine from a silly maid, who, travelling with these Median lords to Memphis from my uncle's country of Media, where all my youth I have been governed, have passed the army of the mighty Turk, bearing his privy signet and his hand to safe conduct us through Africa.
And since we have arrived in Scythia, besides rich presents from the puissant Cham, we have his highness letters to command aid and assistance if we stand in need.
But now you see these letters and commands are countermanded by a greater man, and through my provinces you must expect letters of conduct from my mightiness, if you intend to keep your treasure safe. But since I love to live at liberty, as easily may you get the Soldan's crown as any prizes out of my precinct. For they are friends that help to wean my state, till men and kingdoms help to strengthen it, and must maintain my life exempt from servitude. But tell me, madam, is your grace betrothed?
I am, my lord, for so you do import.
I am a lord, for so my deed shall prove, and yet a shepherd by my parentage. But, lady, this fair face and heavenly hue must grace his bed that conquers Asia, and means to be a terror to the world, measuring the limits of his empery by east and west as Phoebus does his course. Lie here, ye weeds that I disdain to wear. This complete armour and this curtal axe are adjuncts more beseeming Tamburlaine. And, madam, whatsoever you esteem of this success and loss unvalued, both may invest you empress of the East, and these that seem but silly country swains may have the leading of some great an host, as with their might shall make the mountains quake, even as when windy exhalations, fighting for passage, tilt within the earth.
As princely lions, when they rouse themselves, stretching their paws and threatening herds of beasts, so in his armor looketh Tamburlaine. Methinks I see kings kneeling at his feet, and he with frowning brows and fiery looks spurning their crowns from off their captive heads.
And making thee and me Techelles kings, that even to death will follow, Tamburlaine.
Nobly resolved, and sweet friends and followers, these lords perhaps do scorn our estimates, and think we prattle with distempered spirits. But since they measure our desert so mean, that in conceit bear empires on our spears, affecting thoughts co-equal with the clouds, they shall be kept our forced followers, till with their eyes they view us emperors.
The gods, defenders of the innocent, will never prosper your intended drifts that thus oppress poor friendless passengers. Therefore at least admit us liberty, even as thou hopest to be eternized by living Asia's mighty emperor.
Our lady's treasure and our own may serve for ransom to our liberties. Return our meals and empty camels back, that we may travel into Syria, where her betrothed lord, Alcidamas, expects the arrival of her highness person.
And wheresoever we repose ourselves, we will report but well of Tamburlaine.
Disdains Zenocrate to live with me? Or you, my lords, to be my followers? Think you I weigh this treasure more than you? Not all the gold in India's wealthy arms shall bind the meanest soldier in my train. Zenocrate, lovelier than the love of Jove, brighter than is the silver Rhodope, fairer than whitest snow on Scythian hills, thy person is more worth to Tamburlaine than the possession of the Persian crown, which gracious stars have promised at my birth. 100 Tartars shall attend on thee, mounted on steeds swifter than Pegasus. Thy garment shall be made of Median silk, enchased with precious jewels of mine own, more rich and valorous than Zenocrate's. With milk-white hearts upon an ivory sled thou shalt be drawn amidst the frozen pools, and scale the icy mountains' lofty tops, which with thy beauty will be soon resolved. My martial prizes with 500 men, one on the 50-headed Volga's wave, shall we all offer to Zenocrate, and then myself to fair Zenocrate.
What now? In love?
Techelles' women must be flattered, but this is she with whom I am in love.
News! News!
How now? What's the matter?
1,000 Persian horsemen are at hand, sent from the king to overcome us all.
How now, my lords of Egypt and Zenocrate? Now must your jewels be restored again, and I that triumphed so be overcome? How say you, lordings? Is not this your hope?
We hope yourself will willingly restore them.
Such hope, such fortune, have the 1,000 horse. Soft ye, my lords and sweet Zenocrate, you must be forced from me ere you go. 1,000 horsemen, we 500 foot, and odds too great for us to stand against. But are they rich? And is their armour good?
Their plumed helmets are wrought with beaten gold, their swords enamelled, and about their necks hang massy chains of gold down to the waist, in every part exceeding brave and rich.
Then shall we fight courageously with them, or look you I should play the orator?
No. Cowards and faint-hearted runaways look for orations when the foe is near. Our swords shall play the orators for us.
Come, let us meet them at the mountain top, and with a sudden and a hot alarum drive all their horses headlong down the hill.
Come, let us march.
Stay, Techelles, ask a parley first. Open the mails, yet guard the treasure sure. Lay out our golden wedges to the view, that their reflections may amaze the Persians. And look we friendly on them when they come. But if they offer word or violence, we'll fight 500 men-at-arms to 1 before we part with our possession. And 'gainst the general we will lift our swords, and either lance his greedy, thirsting throat, or take him prisoner. And his chain shall serve for manacles till he be ransomed home.
I hear them come. Shall we encounter them?
Keep all your standings and stir not a foot. Myself will bide the danger of the brunt.
Where is this Scythian Tamburlaine?
Whom speakst thou, Persian? I am Tamburlaine.
Tamburlaine, a Scythian shepherd so embellished with nature's pride and richest furniture. His looks do menace heaven, and there the gods. His fiery eyes are fixed upon the earth, as if he now devised some stratagem, or meant to pierce Avernus' darksome vaults, to pull the triple-headed dog from hell.
Noble and mild this Persian seems to be, if outward habit judge the inward man.
His deep affections make him passionate.
With what a majesty he rears his looks. In thee, thou valiant man of Persia, I see the folly of thy emperor. Art thou but a captain of 1,000 horse, that by characters graven in thy brows, and by thy martial face and stout aspect, deservest to have the leading of an host? Forsake thy king, and do but join with me, and we will triumph over all the world. I hold the fates bound fast in iron chains, and with my hand turn fortune's wheel about, and sooner shall the sun fall from his sphere than Tamburlaine be slain or overcome. Draw forth thy sword, thou mighty man-at-arms, intending but to raise my charmed skin, and Jove himself will stretch his hand from heaven to ward the blow and shield me safe from harm. See how he rains down heaps of gold in showers, as if he meant to give my soldiers pay, and as a sure and grounded argument that I shall be the monarch of the East, he sends his Soldan's daughter, rich and brave, to be my queen and portly empress. If thou wilt stay with me, renowned man, and lead thy 1,000 horse with my conduct, besides thy share of this Egyptian prize, those 1,000 horse shall sweat with martial spoil of conquered kingdoms and of cities sacked. Both we will walk upon the lofty cliffs, and Christian merchants that with Russian stems plough up huge furrows in the Caspian Sea shall vail to us as lords of all the lake. Both we will reign as consuls of the earth, and mighty kings shall be our senators. Jove, sometime masked in a shepherd's weed, and by those steps that he hath scaled the heavens, may we become immortal like the gods. Join with me now in this my mean estate. I call it mean because, being yet obscure, the nations far removed admire me not. And when my name and honour shall be spread as far as Boreas claps his brazen wings, or fair Bootes spends his cheerful light, then shall thou be competitor with me, and sit with Tamburlaine in all his majesty.
Not Hermes, proluctor of the gods, could use persuasions more pathetical.
Nor are Apollo's oracles more true than thou shalt find my fault substantial.
We are his friends, and if the Persian king should offer present dukedoms to our state, we think it loss to make exchange for that we are assured of by our friend's success.
Kingdoms, at the least, we all expect, besides the honour in assured conquests, where kings shall crouch unto our conquering swords, and hosts of soldiers stand amazed at us, when with their fearful tongues they shall confess these are the men that all the world admires.
What strong enchantments ties my yielding soul to these resolved noble Scythians? But shall I prove a traitor to my king?
No, but the trusty friend of Tamburlaine.
Won with thy words and conquered with thy looks, I yield myself, my men and horse to thee, to be partaker of thy good or ill, as long as life maintains Theridamas.
Theridamas, my friend, take here my hand, which is as much as if I swore by heaven, and called the gods to witness of my vow. Thus shall my heart be still combined with thine, until our bodies turn to elements, and both our souls aspire celestial thrones. Techelles and Casane, welcome him.
Welcome, renowned Persian, to us all.
Long may Theridamas remain with us.
These are my friends, in whom I more rejoice than doth the king of Persia in his crown, and by the love of Pylades and Orestes, whose statues we adore in Scythia, thyself and them shall never part from me before I crown you kings in Asia. Take much of them, gentle Theridamas, and they will never leave thee till the death.
No thee nor them, thrice noble Tamburlaine, shall want my heart to be with gladness pierced, to do your honour and security.
1,000 thanks, worthy Theridamas. And now, fair madam and my noble lords, if you will willingly remain with me, you shall have honours as your merits be, or else you shall be forced with slavery.
We yield unto thee, happy Tamburlaine.
For you, then, madam, I am out of doubt.
I must be pleased, perforce. Wretched Zenocrate. Thus far are we toward Theridamas, and valiant Tamburlaine, the man of fame, the man that in the forehead of his fortune bears figures of renown and miracle. Tell me, thou hast seen him, Menaphon, what stature wields he, and what personage?
Of stature tall and straightly fashioned, like his desire, lift upwards and divine. So large of limbs, his joints so strongly knit, such breadth of shoulders as might a mainly bear old Atlas burden, as might old mainly bear of old Atlas burden. Twixt his manly pitch, a pearl worth more than all the world is placed, wherein by curious sovereignty of art are fixed his piercing instruments of sight, whose fiery circles bear encompassed a heaven of heavenly bodies in their spheres, that guides his steps and actions to the throne where honor sits invested royally. Pale of complexion, wrought in him with passion, thirsting with sovereignty and love of arms, his lofty brows in folds do figure death, and in their smoothness amity and life. About them hangs a knot of amber hair, wrapped in curls as fierce Achilles was, on which the breath of heaven delights to play, making it dance with wanton majesty. His arms and fingers long and sinewy, betokening valor and excess of strength. In part proportioned, like the man, should make the world subdued to Tamburlaine.
Well hast thou portrayed in thy terms of life the face and personage of a wondrous man. Nature doth strive with fortune and his stars to make him famous in accomplished worth. And well his merits show him to be made his fortune's master and the king of men, that could persuade at such a sudden pitch, with reasons of his valour and his life, 1,000 sworn and overmatching foes. Then, when our powers in point of swords are joined, and closed in compass of the killing bullet, through though straight the passage and the port be made that leads to palace of my brother's life, proud is his fortune if we pierce it not. And when the princely Persian diadem shall overweigh his weary, witless head, and fall like mellowed fruit with shakes of death, in fair Persia, noble Tamburlaine shall be my regent and remain as king.
In happy hour we have set the crown upon your kingly head that seeks our honour, in joining with the man ordained by heaven to further every action to the best.
He that with shepherds and a little spoil durst, in disdain of wrong and tyranny, defend his freedom against a monarchy, what will he do, supported by a king, leading a troop of gentlemen and lords, and stuffed with treasure for his highest thoughts?
And such shall wait on worthy Tamburlaine. Our army will be 40,000 strong when Tamburlaine and brave Theridamas have met us by the river Araris. And all conjoin to meet the witless king that now is marching near to Parthia, and with unwilling soldiers, faintly armed, to seek revenge on me and Tamburlaine, to whom sweet Menaphon direct me straight.
I will, my lord.
Come, my Meander, let us to this gear. I tell you true, my heart is swollen with wrath of that same thievish villain Tamburlaine, and of that false Cosroe, my traitorous brother. Would it not grieve a king to be so abused, and have 1,000 horsemen taken away, and, which is worse, to have his diadem sought for by such scald knaves as love him not? I think it would. And well then, by heavens I swear, Aurora shall not peep out of her doors, but I will have Cosroe by the head, and kill proud Tamburlaine with point of sword. Tell you the rest, Meander, I have said.
Then, having passed Armenian deserts now, and pitched our tents under the Georgian hills, whose tops are covered with Tartarian thieves that lie in ambush, waiting for a prey, but what should we do but bid them battle straight, and rid the world of these detested troops, lest if we let them linger here a while, they gather strength by power of fresh supplies. This country swarms with vile outrageous men that live by rapine and by lawless spoil, fit soldiers for the wicked Tamburlaine, and he that could with gifts and promises inveigle him that led 1,000 horse, make him false his faith unto his king, will quickly win such as be like himself. Therefore, cheer up your minds, prepare to fight. He that can take or slaughter Tamburlaine shall rule the province of Albania. Who brings that traitor's head, Theridamas, shall have a government in Medea, besides the spoil of him and all his train. But if Cosroe, as our spies say, and as we know, remains with Tamburlaine, his highness' pleasure is that he should live and be reclaimed with princely lenity.
100 horsemen of my company, scouting abroad upon these champion plains, have viewed the army of the Scythians, which make report it far exceeds the king's.
Suppose they be in number infinite, yet being void of martial discipline, all running headlong, greedy after spoils, more regarding gain than victory, like to the cruel brothers of the earth, sprung of the teeth of dragons venomous. Careless swords shall lance their fellows' throats, to make us triumph in their overthrow.
Was there such brethren, sweet Meander said, that sprung of teeth the dragon's venoms?
So poets say, my lord.
'Tis a pretty toy to be a poet. Well, well, Meander, thou art deeply read, and having thee, I have a jewel sure. Go on, my lord, and give your charge, I say. Thy wit will make us conquerors today.
Then, noble soldiers, to entrap these thieves that live confounded in disordered troops, if wealth or riches may prevail with them, we have our camels laden, all with gold, which you, that be but common soldiers, shall fling in every corner of the field. And while the base-born Tartars take it up, you, fighting for honour, fighting more for honour than for gold, shall massacre those greedy-minded slaves. And when the scattered army is subdued, and you march on their slaughtered carcasses, share equally the gold that bought their lives, and live like gentlemen in Persia. Strike up the drum, and march courageously. Fortune herself doth sit upon our crests.
He tells you true, my monsters, so he does. Drums, why sound ye not when Meander speaks?
Now, worthy Tamburlaine, have I reposed in thy approved fortunes all my hope. What thinkst thou, man, shall come of our attempts? For even as from assured oracle, I take thy doom for satisfaction.
And so mistake you not a whit, my lord, for fates and oracles of heaven have sworn to royalize the deeds of Tamburlaine, and make them blessed that share in his attempts. And doubt you not, but if you favour me, and let my fortunes and my valour sway to some direction in your martial deeds, the world will strive with hosts of men-at-arms to swarm unto the ensign I support. The host of Xerxes, which by fame is said to drink the mighty Parthian Arias, was but a handful to that we will have. Our quivering lances, shaking in the air, and bullets like Jove's dreadful thunderbolts, enrolled in flames and fiery smouldering mists, shall threat the gods more than the Cyclopean wars. And with our sun-bright armour as we march, we'll chase the stars from heaven and dim their eyes that stand and muse at our admired arms.
You see, my lord, what working words he hath. But when you see his actions stop his speech, your speech will stay, or so extol his worth, as I shall be commanded and excused for turning my poor charge to his direction. And these, his two renowned friends, my lord, would make one thirst and strive to be retained in such a great degree of amity.
With duty and with amity we yield our utmost service to the fair Cosroe.
Which I esteem as portion of my crown, Usumcasane and Techelles both, when she that rules in Radmus' golden gates, and makes a passage for all prosperous arms, shall make me solely emperor of Asia, then shall your meeds and valours be advanced to rooms of honour and nobility.
Then haste, Cosroe, to be king alone, that I may, with these my friends and all my men, may triumph in our long-expected fate. The king, your brother, is now hard at hand. Meet with the fool, and rid your royal shoulders of such a burden as outweighs the sands and all the craggy rocks of Caspia.
My lord, we have discovered the enemy ready to charge you with a mighty army.
Come, Tamburlaine, now whet thy winged sword and lift thy lofty arm into the clouds, that it may reach the king of Persia's crown, and set it safe on my victorious head.
See where it is, the keenest curtlax that e'er made passage thorough Persian arms. These are the wings shall make it fly as swift as doth the lightning or the breath of heaven, and kill as sure as it swiftly flies.
Thy words assure me of a kind success. Go, valiant soldier, go before and charge the fainting army of that foolish king.
Usumcasane and Techelles, come. We are enow to scare the enemy, and more than needs to make an emperor.
Accursed be he that first invented war. They knew not, simple men, how those were hit by pelting cannon shot stand staggering like quivering aspen leaf, fearing the force of Boreas' boisterous blasts. In what a lamentable case were I, if nature had not given me wisdom's lore. For kings are clouts that every man shoots at, our crown the pin that thousands seek to cleave. Therefore, in policy, I think it good to hide it close. Goodly stratagem, and far from any man that is a fool. So shall I not be known, or if I be, they cannot take away my crown from me. Here, I will hide it in this symbol hole.
What fearful cowards, straggling from the camp when kings themselves are present in the field?
Thou liest.
Base villain, darest thou give me the lie?
Away, I am the king. Go, touch me not. Thou breakst the law of arms unless thou kneel and call me and cry me mercy, noble king.
Are you the witty king of Persia?
Aye, marry am I. Have you any suit to me?
I would entreat you to speak but 3 wise words.
So I can when I see my time.
Is this your crown?
Aye, didst thou ever see a fairer?
You will not sell it, will you?
Such another word, and I will have thee executed. Come, give it me.
No, I took it prisoner.
You lie, I gave it to you.
Then 'tis mine.
No, I mean I let you keep it.
Well, I mean you shall have it again. Here, take it for a while. I lend it thee till I may see thee hemmed. with armed men. Then shalt thou see me pull it from thy head. Thou art no match for Tamburlaine.
Oh gods, is this Tamburlaine the thief? I marvel much he stole it not away.
Hold thee, Cosroe, where 2 imperial crowns think thee invested now as royally, even by the mighty hand of Tamburlaine, as if as many kings as could encompass thee with greatest pomp had crowned thee emperor.
So do I, thrice renowned man-at-arms, and none shall keep the crown but Tamburlaine. Thee do I make my regent of Persia, and general lieutenant of my armies. Meander, you that were our brother's guide, and chiefest counsellor in all his acts, since he is yielded to the stroke of war, on your submission we with thanks excuse, and give you equal place in our affairs.
Most happy Emperor, in humblest terms I vow my service to your majesty, with utmost virtue of my faith and duty.
Thanks, good Meander. Then Cosroe reign, and govern Persia in her former pomp. Now send embassage to thy neighbour kings, and let them know the Persian king is changed, from one that knew not what a king should do, to one that can command what longs thereto. And now we will to fair Persepolis, with 20,000 expert soldiers, the lords and captains of my brother's camp, with little slaughter, take Meander's course, and gladly yield them to my gracious rule. Ortygius and Menaphon, my trusty friends, now will I gratify your former good, and grace your calling with a greater sway.
As we ever aimed at your behoof, and sought your state all honour it deserved, so will we with our powers and our lives endeavour to preserve and prosper it.
I will not thank thee, sweet Ortygius. Better replies shall prove my purposes. And now, Lord Tamburlaine, my brother's camp I leave to thee, and to Theridamas, to follow me to fair Persepolis. Then will we march to all those Indian mines my witless brother to the Christians lost, and ransom them with fame and usury. Until thou overtake me, Tamburlaine, staying to order all the scattered troops, farewell, Lord Regent and his happy friends. I long to sit upon my brother's throne.
Your majesty shall shortly have your wish, and ride in triumph through Persepolis.
And ride in triumph through Persepolis. Is it not brave to be a king, Techelles? Usumcasane and Theridamas, is it not passing brave to be a king and ride in triumph through Persepolis?
Oh, my lord, it is sweet and full of pomp.
A king is half to be a god.
Oh, a god is not so glorious as a king. I think the pleasure they enjoy in heaven cannot compare with kingly joys in earth. To wear a crown enchased with pearl and gold, whose virtues carry with it life and death, to ask and have, command and be obeyed. When looks breed love, with looks to gain the prize, such power attractive shines in princes' eyes.
Why, say, Theridamas, wilt thou be a king?
Nay, though I praise it, I can live without it.
What say my other friends? Will you be kings?
I, if I could, with all my heart, my lord.
Why, that's well said, Techelles. So would I, and so would you, my masters, would you not?
What then, my lord?
Why then, Casane, shall we wish for aught the world affords in greatest novelty, and rest attemptless, faint, and destitute? Methinks we should not. I am strongly moved that if I should desire the Persian crown, I would attain it with a wondrous ease, and would not all our soldiers soon consent if we should aim at such a dignity?
I know they would with our persuasions.
Why then, Theridamas, I'll first essay to get the Persian kingdom to myself. Then thou for Parthia, they for Scythia and Medea, and if I prosper, all shall be as sure as if the Turk, the Pope, Afric, and Greece came creeping to us with their crowns apiece.
Then shall we send to this triumphing king and bid him battle for his novel crown?
Nay, quickly then, before his room be hot.
'Twill prove a pretty jest, in faith, my friends.
A jest to charge on 20,000 men? I judge the purchase more important far.
Judge by thyself, Theridamas, not me. For presently Techelles here shall haste to bid him battle ere he pass too far, and lose more labour than the gain will quite. Then shalt thou see this Scythian Tamburlaine make but a jest to win the Persian crown. Techelles, take 1,000 horse with thee, and bid him turn him back to war with us, that only made him king to make us sport. We will not steal upon him cowardly, but give him warning, and more warriors. Haste thee, Techelles, we will follow thee. What saith Theridamas?
Go on, for me.
What means this devilish shepherd to aspire with such a giantly presumption, to cast up hills against the face of heaven and dare the force of angry Jupiter? But as he thrust them underneath the hills and pressed out fire from their burning jaws, so will I send this monstrous slave to hell, where flames shall ever feed upon his soul.
Some powers divine, or else infernal, mix their angry seeds at his conception. He was never sprung of human race, since with the spirit of his fearful pride he dares so doubtlessly resolve of rule, and by profession be ambitious.
What god or fiend or spirit of the earth or monster turned to a manly shape, or of what mould or metal he be made? Star or fate soever govern him, let us put on our meet encountering minds, and in detesting such a devilish thief, in love of honour and defence of right, be armed against the hate of such a foe, whether from earth or hell or heaven grow.
Nobly resolved, my good Ortygius, and since we have all sucked one wholesome air, and with the same proportion of elements resolve, I hope we are resembled, vowing our loves to equal death and life. Let's cheer our soldiers to encounter him, that grievous image of ingratitude, that fiery thirster after sovereignty, and burn him in the fury of that flame that none can quench but blood and empery. Resolve, my lords and loving soldiers, now to save your king and country from decay. Then strike up drum, and all the stars that make the loathsome circle of my dated life, direct my weapon to his barbarous heart, that thus opposeth him against the gods, and scorns the powers that govern Persia. Barbarous and bloody Tamburlaine, thus to deprive me of my crown and life. Treacherous and false Theridamas, even in the morning of my happy state, scarce being seated on my royal throne to work my downfall and untimely end. An uncouth pain torments my grieved soul, and death arrests the organ of my voice, who entering at the breach thy sword hath made, sacks every vein and artery of my heart. Bloody and insatiate Tamburlaine!
The thirst of reign and sweetness of a crown that caused the eldest son of heavenly hopes to thrust his doting father from his chair and place himself in the imperial heaven moved me to manage arms against thy state. What better precedent than mighty Jove, nature that framed us of 4 elements, warring within our breasts for regiment, doth teach us all to have aspiring minds. Our souls, whose faculties can comprehend the wondrous architecture of the world and measure every wandering planet's course, still climbing after knowledge infinite, and always moving as the restless spheres, will us to wear ourselves and never rest until we reach the ripest fruit of all, that bliss, that perfect bliss and soul felicity, the sweet fruition of an earthly crown.
And that made me to join with Tamburlaine, for he is gross and like the massy earth that moves not upwards, nor by princely deeds, doth mean to soar above the highest sort.
And that made us, the friends of Tamburlaine, lift our swords against the Persian king.
Whereas when Jove did thrust old Saturn down, Neptune and Dis gained each of them a crown, so do we hope to reign in Asia, if Tamburlaine be placed in Persia.
The strangest men that ever nature made. I know not how to take their tyrannies. My bloodless body waxeth chill and cold, and with my blood my life slides through my wound. My soul begins to take her flight to hell, and summon all my senses to depart. The heat and moisture which did feed each other, for want of nourishment to feed them both, are dry and cold. And now doth ghastly death with greedy talents gripe my bleeding heart, and like a harpy tires on my life. Theridamas and Tamburlaine, I die. And fearful vengeance light upon you both.
Not all the curses which the Furies breathe shall make me leave so rich a prize as this. Theridamas, Techelles, and the rest, who think you now is king of Persia?
Tamburlaine!
Though Mars himself, the angry god of arms, and all the earthly potentates conspire to dispossess me of this diadem, yet will I wear it in despite of them, as great commander of this eastern world, if you but say that Tamburlaine shall reign.
Long live Tamburlaine!
Reign in Asia!
So now it is more surer on my head than if the gods had held a parliament and all pronounced me king of Asia.
Great kings of Barbary, and my portly Bassos, we hear the Tartars and the eastern thieves, under the conduct of one Tamburlaine, presume a bickering with your emperor, and think to rouse us from our dreadful siege of the famous Grecian Constantinople. You know our army is invincible, as many circumcised Turks we have, and warlike bands of Christians reunite, as hath the ocean or the Terran Sea, small drops of water where the moon begins, to join in one her semicircled horns. Yet would we not be braved with foreign power, nor raise our siege before the Grecians yield, or breathless lie before the city walls.
Now, Ned Emperor and mighty general, what if you sent the Bassos of your guard to charge him to remain in Asia, or else to threaten death and deadly arms, as from the mouth of mighty Bajazeth?
Hide thee, my Basso, fast to Persia. Tell him thy lord, the Turkish emperor, dread lord of Afric, Europe, and Asia, great king and conqueror of Gracia, the ocean, Terran, and the coal-black sea, the high and highest monarch of the world, wills and commands, per se not I entreat, not once to set his foot in Africa or spread his colours in Gracia, lest he incur the fury of my wrath. Tell him I am content to take a truce, because I hear he bears a valiant mind. But if, presuming on his silly power, he be so mad to manage arms with me, then stay thou with him. Say I bid thee so. And if, before the sun have measured heaven with triple circuit, thou regretest not, we meet to take his morning's next rise, for messenger he will not be reclaimed, and mean to fetch thee in spite of him.
Most great and puissant monarch of the earth, your Basso will accomplish your behest, and show your pleasure to the Persian, as fits the legate of the stately Turk.
They say he is the king of Persia, but if he dare attempt to stir your siege, 'twere requisite he shall be 10 times more, for all the flesh quakes at your magnificence.
True, Argier, and trembles at my looks.
The spring is hindered by your smothering host, for neither rain can fall upon the earth, nor sun reflects his virtuous beams thereon. The ground is mantled with such multitudes.
All this is true as holy Mahomet, and all the trees are blasted with our breaths.
What thinks your greatness best to be achieved in pursuit of the city's overthrow?
I will the captive pioneers of Argier cut off the water that by leaden pipes runs to the city from Mountain Carnon. 2,000 horse shall forage up and down, that no relief or succor come by land, and all the sea my galleys countermand. Then shall our footmen lie within the trench, and with their cannons, mouthed like Orcus' gulf, batter the walls, and we will enter in, and thus the Grecians shall be conquered.
Madam Zenocrate, may I presume to know the cause of these unquiet fits that work such trouble to your wonted rest? 'Tis more than pity such a heavenly face should by heart's sorrow wax so wan and pale, when your offensive rate by Tamburlaine, which of your whole displeasures should be most, that seemed to be digested long ago.
Although it be digested long ago, as his exceeding favours have deserved, and might content the Queen of Heaven as well as it hath changed my first conceived disdain, yet since a further passion feeds my thoughts with ceaseless and disconsolate conceits, which dye my looks so lifeless as they are, and might, if my extremes had full events, make me the ghastly counterfeit of death.
Eternal heaven sooner be dissolved, and all that pierceth Phoebus' silver eye, nor such hap falls as Zenocrate.
Ah, life and soul still hover in his breast, and leave my body senseless as the earth. Or else unite you to his life and soul, that I may live and die with Tamburlaine.
Tamburlaine? Ah, fair Zenocrate, let not a man so vile and barbarous, that holds you from your father in despite, and keeps you from the honours of a queen, being supposed his worthless concubine, be honoured with your love, but for necessity. So, now the mighty Soldan hears of you. Your highness needs not doubt, but in short time he will, with Tamburlaine's destruction, redeem you from this deadly servitude.
Or leave to wound me with these words, and speak of Tamburlaine as he deserves. The entertainment we have had of him is far from villainy or servitude, and might in noble minds be counted princely.
How can you fancy one that looks so fierce, only disposed to martial stratagems, who, when he shall embrace you in his arms, will tell how many thousand men he slew, and when you look for amorous discourse, will rattle forth his facts of war and blood. Too harsh a subject for your dainty ears.
As looks the sun through Nilus' flowing stream, or when the morning holds him in her arms, so looks my lordly love. Fair Tamburlaine, his talk much sweeter than the muses' song they sung for honour 'gainst Pierides, or when Minerva did with Neptune strive, and higher would I rear my estimate than Juno, sister to the highest god. If I were matched with mighty Tamburlaine.
Yet be not so inconstant in your love, but let the young Arabian live in hope, after your rescue to enjoy his choice. You see, though first the king of Persia, being a shepherd, seemed to love you much, now in his majesty he leaves those looks, those words of favour, and those comfortings, and gives no more than common courtesies.
Thence rise the tears that so distrain my cheeks, fearing his love through my unworthiness.
Betrayed by fortune and suspicious love, threatened with frowning wrath and jealousy, surprised with fear of hideous revenge, I stand aghast, but most astonied to see his colour shut in secret thoughts, and wrapped in silence of his angry soul. On his brows was betrayed an ugly death, and in his eyes the fury of his heart, that shone as comets, menacing revenge, cast a pale complexion on his cheeks, as when the seaman sees the Hyades gather an army of Cimmerian clouds, Austra and Aquilon with winged steeds, all sweating, tilt about the watery heavens, shivering spears enforcing thunderclaps, and from their shields strike flames of lightning. All fearful folds his sails and sounds the main, lifting his prayers to heaven for aid against the terror of the winds and waves. So fares Agydas, for the late felt frowns that send a tempest to my daunted thoughts, and make my soul divine her overthrow.
See you, Agydas, how the king salutes you. He bids you prophesy what it imports.
I prophesied before, and now I prove the killing frowns of jealousy and love. He needed not with words confirm my fear, for words are vain where working tools present the naked action of my threatened end. It says, Agydas, thou shalt surely die, and of extremities elect the least. More honour and less pain it may procure to die by this resolved hand of thine, than stay the torments he and heaven have sworn. Let haste, Agydas, and prevent the plagues which thy prolonged fates may draw on thee. Though wander free from fear of tyrant's rage, removed from the torments of the hell wherewith he may excruciate thy soul, and let Agydas die, with this stab, slumber eternally.
Usumcasane, see how right the man hath hit upon the meaning of my lord the king.
Faith, Techelles, it was manly done. And since he was so wise and honourable, well, let us afford him now the bearing hence, and crave his triple worthy burial.
Agreed, Casane. We will honour him.
Basso, by this thy lord and master knows, I mean to meet him in Byrrhia. See how he comes. Tush! Turks are full of brags and menace more than they can well perform. He meet me in the field and fetch thee hence. Alas, poor Turk, his fortune is too weak to encounter with the strength of Tamburlaine. View well my camp, and speak indifferently. Do not my captains and my soldiers look as if they meant to conquer Africa?
Your men are valiant, but their number few, and cannot terrify his mighty host. My lord, the great commander of the world, besides 15 contributory kings, hath now in arms 10,000 Janissaries, mounted on lusty Mauritanian steeds, brought to the war by men of Tripoli. 200,000 footmen that have served in 2 set battles, fought in Grecia, and for the expedition of this war, if he think good, can from his garrisons withdraw as many more to follow him.
The more he brings, the greater is the spoil. For when they perish by our warlike hands, we mean to set our footmen on their steeds and rifle all those stately Janizars.
But will those kings accompany your lord?
Such as his highness please, but some must stay to rule the provinces he late subdued.
Then fight courageously. Their crowns are yours. This hand shall set them on your conquering heads that made me emperor of Asia.
Let him bring millions infinite of men, unpeopling Western Africa and Greece, yet we assure us of the victory.
Even he that in a trice vanquished 2 kings, more mighty than the Turkish emperor, shall rouse him out of Europe and pursue his scattered army till they yield or die.
Well said, Theridamas. Speak in that word, for will and shall best fitteth Tamburlaine, whose smiling stars give him assured hope of martial triumph ere he meet his foes. I that am termed the scourge and wrath of God, the only fear and terror of the world, will first subdue the Turk and then enlarge those Christian captives which you keep as slaves, burdening their bodies with your heavy chains, and feeding them with thin and slender fare, that naked row about the Tyrrhene sea, and when they chance to rest or breathe a space, are punished with bastions so grievously that they lie panting on the galley's side, and strive for life at every stroke they give. These are the cruel pirates of Argier, the damned train, the scum of Africa, inhabited with straggling runagates that make quick habit of the Christian blood. But as I live, that town shall curse the time that Tamburlaine set foot in Africa.
Bassos and Janissaries of my guard, attend upon the person of your lord, the greatest potentate of Africa.
Techelles and the rest, prepare your swords. I mean to encounter with that Bajazeth.
Kings of Fez, Morocco, and Argier, he calls me Bajazeth, whom you call lord. Note the presumption of this Scythian slave. I tell thee, villain, those that lead my horse have to their names titles of dignity. And darest thou bluntly call me Bajazeth?
And know thou, Turk, that those which lead my horse shall lead thee captive thorough Africa. And darest thou bluntly call me Tamburlaine?
By my Mahomet, my kinsman's sepulchre, and by the holy Alcoran, I swear he shall be made a chaste and lustless eunuch, and in my sorrow tend my concubines, and all his captains that thus stoutly stand shall draw the chariot of my empress, whom I have brought to see their overthrow.
By this my sword, the conquered Persia, thy fall shall make me famous through the world. I will not tell thee how I'll handle thee. But every common soldier of my camp shall smile to see thy miserable state.
What means the mighty Turkish emperor to talk with one so base as Tamburlaine?
Ye Moors and valiant men of Barbary, how can ye suffer these indignities?
Leave words and let them feel your lance's points, which glided through the bowels of the Greeks.
Well said, my stout contributory kings. Your threefold army and my huge host shall swallow up these base-born Persians.
Renowned and mighty Tamburlaine, why stay we thus prolonging of their lives?
I long to see those crowns won by our swords, that we may rule as kings of Africa.
Cassini.
All right. What coward would not fight for such a prize?
Fight all courageously, and be you kings. I speak it, and my words are oracles.
Zabina, mother of 3 braver boys than Hercules, that in his infancy did pash the jaws of serpents venomous, whose hands are made to gripe a warlike lance, their shoulders broad for complete armor fit, their limbs more large and of a bigger size than all the brats sprung from Typhon's loins, who when they come unto their father's age will batter turrets with their manly fists. Sit here upon this royal chair of state, and on thy head wear my imperial crown, until I bring this sturdy Tamburlaine and all his captains bound in captive chains.
Such good success happened to Bajazeth.
Zenocrate, the loveliest maid alive, fairer than rocks of pearl and precious stone, the only paragon of Tamburlaine, whose eyes are brighter than the lamps of heaven, and speech more pleasant than sweet harmony, that with thy looks canst clear the darkened sky and calm the rage of thundering Jupiter. Sit down by her, adorned with my crown, as if thou wert the empress of the world. Stir not, Zenocrate, until thou see me march victoriously with all my men, triumphing over him and these his kings, which I will bring as vassals to thy feet. Till then, take thou my crown, vaunt of my worth, and manage words with her as we will with arms.
And may my love, the king of Persia, return with victory and free from wound.
Now shalt thou feel the force of Turkish arms, which lately made all Europe quake for fear. I have of Turks, Arabians, Moors, and Jews enough to cover all Bithynia. Let thousands die, their slaughtered carcasses shall serve for walls and bulwarks to the rest. And as the heads of Hydra, so my power subdued shall stand as mighty as before. If they should yield their necks unto the sword, thy soldiers' arms could not endure to strike so many blows as I have heads for them. Thou knowest not, foolish hardy Tamburlaine, what 'tis to meet me in the open field, that leave no ground for thee to march upon.
Our conquering sword shall marshal us the way. We used to march upon the slaughtered foe, trampling their bowels with our horses' hooves, brayed horses spread on the white Tartarian hills. My camp is like to Julius Caesar's host, that never fought but had the victory. Nor in Pharsalia was there such an hot war as these my followers willingly would have. Legions of spirits fleeting in the air, direct our bullets on our weapons' points, and make your strokes to wound the senseless light. And when she sees our bloody colours spread, then victory begins to take her flight, resting herself upon my milk-white tent. But come, my lords, to weapons let us fall. The field is ours, the Turk, his wife, and all.
Come, kings and bassos, let us glut our swords that thirst to drink the feeble Persian's blood.
Base concubine, must thou be placed by me, that am the empress of the mighty Turk?
Disdainful Turkess and unreverend Basso, call'st thou me concubine, that am betrothed unto the great and mighty Tamburlaine?
To Tamburlaine, the great Tartarian thief.
Thou wilt repent those lavish words of thine, when thy great Basso master and thyself must plead for mercy at his kingly feet, and sue to me to be your advocate.
And sue to thee? I tell thee, shameless girl, thou shalt be laundress to my waiting maid. How likest thou her, Ebea? Will she serve?
Madam, she thinks perhaps she is too fine. I should turn her into other weeds and make her dainty fingers fall to work.
Hear'st thou, Ebea, how thy drudge doth talk? See how my slave her mistress menaceth. Both for their sauciness shall be employed to dress the common soldiers' meat and drink. For we will scorn they should come near ourselves.
Yet sometimes let your highness send for them to do the work my chambermaid disdains.
Ye gods and powers that govern Persia, and made my lordly love her worthy king, now strengthen him against the Turkish Bajazeth, and let his foes, like flocks of fearful roes pursued by hunters, fly his angry looks, that I may see him issue conqueror.
Now, Mahomet, solicit God himself and make him rain down murdering shot from heaven to dash the Scythians' brains and strike them dead, and dare to manage arms with him that offered jewels to thy sacred shrine when first he warred against the Christians.
By this, the Turk lies weltering in their blood, and Tamburlaine is lord of Africa.
Thou art deceived. I heard the trumpet sound as when my emperor overthrew the Greeks and led them captive into Africa. Straight will I use thee as thy pride deserves. Prepare thyself to live and die my slave.
If Mahomet should come from heaven and swear, my royal lord is slain or conquered, yet should he not persuade me otherwise, but that he lives and will be conqueror.
Now, king of Bassos, who is conqueror?
And now, by the fortune of this damned foil.
Where are your stout contributory kings?
We have their crowns. Their bodies strew the field.
Each man a crown. Why, kingly forty faith, deliver them into my treasury.
Now, let me offer to my gracious lord his royal crown, again so highly won.
Nay, take the Turkish crown from her, Zenocrate, and crown me Emperor of Africa.
No, Tamburlaine, though now thou gotst the best, thou shalt not yet be lord of Africa.
Give her the crown, Turkess, you were best.
Injurious villains, thieves, renegades, how dare you thus abuse my majesty?
Here, madam, your empress, she is none.
Now, not now, Theridamas, her time is past. The pillars that have bolstered up those terms are fallen in clusters to my conquering feet.
Though he be prisoner, he may be ransomed.
Not all the world shall ransom Bajazeth.
Ah, fair Zabina, we have lost the field, and never had the Turkish emperor so great a foil by any foreign foe. Now will the Christian miscreants be glad, ringing with joy their superstitious bells, and making bonfires for my overthrow. But ere I die, those foul idolaters shall make me bonfires with their filthy bones. For though the glory of this day be lost, African Greece have garrisons enough to make me sovereign of the earth again.
Those walled garrisons will I subdue, and right myself great lord of Africa. So from the east unto the furthest west shall Tamburlaine extend his puissant arm. The galleys and those pilling brigandines that yearly sail to the Venetian Gulf and hover in the straits of for Christian's wreck shall lie at anchor at the Isle Azant, until the Persian fleet and men of war sailing along the Oriental Sea have fetched about the Indian continent, even from Persepolis to Mexico, and thence unto the Straits of Gibraltar. There where they shall meet and join their force in one, keeping in awe the Bay of Portingal, and all the ocean by the British shore, and by this means I'll win the world at last.
Yet set a ransom on me, Tamburlaine.
What, think'st thou Tamburlaine esteems thy gold? I'll make the kings of India, ere I die, offer their minds to sue for peace to me, and dig for treasure to appease my wrath. Come, bind them both, and one lead in the Turk. The Turkess let my love's maid lead away.
Villains, dare you touch my sacred arms? Mahomet, oh sleepy Mahomet.
O cursed Mahomet that makes us thus the slaves to Scythians rude and barbarous.
Come, bring them in, and for this happy conquest triumph and solemnize a martial feast.
Awake, ye men of Memphis, hear the clang of Scythian trumpets, hear the basilisks that, roaring, shake Damascus turrets down. The rogue of Bulgar holds Zenocrate, the Soldan's daughter, for his concubine, and with a troop of thieves and vagabonds hath spread his colours to our high disgrace, while you, faint-hearted, base Egyptians, lie slumbering on the flowery banks of Nile, as crocodiles that unaffrighted rest, while thundering cannons rattle on their skins.
Nay, mighty Soldan, did your greatness see the frowning looks of fiery Tamburlaine, that with his terror and imperious eyes commands the hearts of his associates? It might amaze your royal majesty.
Villain, I tell thee, were that Tamburlaine as monstrous as Gorgon, prince of hell, Soldan would not start a foot from him. But speak, what power hath he?
Mighty lord, 300,000 men in armor clad upon their prancing steeds, disdainfully with wanton paces trampling on the ground, 500,000 footmen, threatened and shot, shaking their swords, their spears, and iron bells, environing their standard round that stood as bristle-pointed as a thorny wood. Their warlike engines and munition exceed the forces of their marshalmen.
Nay, could their numbers countervail the stars, or ever drizzling drops of April showers, or withered leaves that autumn shaketh down? Yet would the Soldan, by his conquering power, so scatter and consume them in his rage, that not a man should live to rue their fall.
So might your highness, had you time to sort your fighting men and raise your royal host, but Tamburlaine by expedition adventure takes of your unreadiness.
Let him take all the advantages he can, for all the world conspire to fight for him. Nay, were he devil, as he is no man, getting revenge of fair Zenocrate, whom he detaineth in despite of us, this arm should send him down to Erebus to shroud his shame in darkness of the night.
Pleaseth your mightiness to understand his resolution far exceedeth all. The first day when he pitcheth down his tents, white is their hue, and on his silver crest a snowy feather spangled white he bears, to signify the mildness of his mind, that satiate with spoil refuseth blood. But when Aurora mounts the second time, as red as scarlet is his furniture, then must his kindled wrath be quenched with blood, not sparing any that can manage arms. But if these threats move not submission, black are his colors, black pavilion, his spear, his shield, his horse, his armor, plumes, and jetty feathers menace death and hell without respect of sex, degree, or age. He raiseth all his foes with fire and sword.
Merciless villain, pedant, ignorant of lawful arms or martial discipline, pillage and murder are his usual trades. Slave usurps the glorious name of war. See, Capelin, the fair Arabian king, that hath been disappointed by the slave of my fair daughter and his princely love, may have fresh warning to go to war with us, and be revenged for her disparagement.
Bring out my footstool.
Priests of heavenly Mahomet, that sacrificing slice and cut your flesh, staining his altars with staining his altars with your purple blood, make heaven to frown and every fixed star to suck up poison from the Moorish fens and pour it in this glorious tyrant's throat.
The chiefest god, first mover of that sphere, enchased with thousands ever-shining lamps, will sooner burn the glorious frame of heaven than it should so conspire my overthrow. But, villain, thou that wish'st this to me, fall prostrate on the low disdainful earth, and be the footstool of great Tamburlaine, that I may rise into my royal throne.
First shalt thou rip my bowels with thy sword, and sacrifice my heart to death and hell before I yield to such slavery.
Base villain, vassal, slave to Tamburlaine, unworthy to embrace or touch the ground that bears the honour of my royal weight. Stoop, villain, stoop, stoop, for so he bids, that may command thee piecemeal to be torn, or scattered like the lofty cedar trees, struck with the voice of thundering Jupiter.
Then as I look down to the damned fiends look on me, and thou, dread god of hell, with Ebon's sceptre, strike this hateful earth, and make it swallow both of us at once.
Now clear the triple region of the air, and let the majesty of heaven behold their scourge and terror tread on emperors. Smile, stars that reigned at my nativity, and dim the brightness of your neighbour lamps. Disdain to borrow light of Cynthia, for I, the chimp-fist lamp of all the earth, first rising in the east with mild aspect, but fixed now in the meridian line, will send up fire to your turning spheres, and cause the sun to borrow light of you. My sword struck fire from his coat of steel, even in Bithynia, when I took this Turk. As when a fiery exhalation, wrapped in the bowels of a freezing cloud, fighting for passage, makes the welkin crack, and casts a flash of lightning to the earth. But ere I march to wealthy Persia, or leave Damascus and the Egyptian fields, as was the fame of Clymenes' brain-sick son, that almost brent the axle-tree of heaven, so shall our swords, our lances, and our shot fill all the air with fiery meteors. Then, when the earth shall wax as red as blood, it shall be said I made it red myself, to make me think of naught but blood and war.
Unworthy king, that by thy cruelty unlawfully usurped the Persian seat, darest thou, that never saw an emperor before thou met my husband in the field, being thy captive, thus abuse his state, keeping his kingly body in a cage that roofs of gold and sun-bright palaces should have prepared to entertain his grace, and treading him beneath thy loathsome feet, whose feet the kings of Africa have kissed?
Must devise some torment worse, my lord, to make these captives rein their lavish tongues.
Zenocrate, look better to your slave.
She is my handmaid slave, and she shall look that these abuses flow not from her tongue. Chide her, Anippe.
Let this be warnings then for you, my slave, how you abuse the person of the king, or else I swear to have you whipped stark naked.
Great Tamburlaine, great in my overthrow, ambitious pride shall make thee fall as low for treading on the back of Bajazeth, that should be horsed and for mighty king.
Thy names and titles and thy dignities are fled from Bajazeth, and remain with me, that will maintain it gainst a world of kings. Put him in again.
Is this a place for mighty Bajazeth? If confusion light on him that helps thee thus.
There, whilst he lives, shall Bajazeth be kept, and where I go be thus in triumph drawn. And thou, his wife, shall feed him with the scraps my servitors shall bring thee from my board. For he that gives him other food than this shall sit by him and starve to death himself. This is my mind, and I will have it so. Not all the kings and emperors of the earth, if they would lay their crown before my feet, shall ransom him or take him from his cage. The ages that shall talk of Tamburlaine, even from this day to Plato's wondrous year, shall talk how I have handled Bajazeth. These Moors that drew him from Bithynia to fair Damascus, where we now remain, shall lead him with us wheresoe'er we go. Techelles and my loving followers, now may we see Damascus' lofty towers, like to the shadows of Pyramides, that with their beauties grace the Menthian fields. The golden stature of their feathered bird that spreads her wings upon the city walls shall not defend it from our battering shot. The townsmen mask in silk and cloth of gold, and every house is as a treasury. The men, the treasure, and the town are ours.
Your tents of white now pitched before the gates, and gentle flags of amity displayed, I doubt not but the governor will yield, offering Damascus to your majesty.
So shall he have his life and all the rest. But if he stay until the bloody flag be once advanced on my vermilion tent, he dies, and those that kept us out so long. And when they see me march in black array, with mournful streamers hanging down their heads, were in that city all the world contained, not one should scape, but perish by our swords.
Yet would you have some pity, for my sake, because it is my country, and my father's.
Not for the world, Zenocrate, if I have sworn. Come, bring in the Turk.
Methinks me marches, Meander did, environed with brave Argolian knights, to chase the savage Caledonian boar, Cephalus, with lusty Theban youths, against the wolf that angry Themis sent, to waste and spoil the sweet Aeonian fields, a monster of 500,000 heads, compact of rapine, piracy and spoil, scum of men, the hate and scourge of God, raids in Egyptia, and annoyeth us. My lord, it is the bloody Tamburlaine, a sturdy fellow and a base-bred thief, by murder raised to the Persian ground, that dare control us in our territories. To tame the pride of this presumptuous beast, join your Arabians with the Soldan's power. Thus unite our royal bands in one, and hasten to remove Damascus' siege. 'Tis a blemish to the majesty and high estate of mighty emperors, that such a base, usurping vagabond should brave a king or wear a princely crown.
Renowned Soldan, have you lately heard the overthrow of mighty Bajazeth? About the confines of Bithynia? The slavery wherewith he persecutes the noble Turk and his great empress?
I have, and sorrow for his bad success. But, noble lord of great Arabia, be so persuaded that Soldan is no more dismayed with tidings of his fall, than in the haven when the pilot stands and views a stranger's ship rent in the winds, and shivered against a craggy rock. Yet in compassion to his wretched state, a sacred vow to heaven and him I make, confirming it with Ibis' holy name, that Tamburlaine shall rue the day, the hour, wherein he wrought such ignominious wrong unto the hallowed person of a prince, or kept the fair Zenocrate so long as concubine to feed his lust.
Let grief and fury hasten on revenge. Let Tamburlaine for his offences feel such plagues as heaven and we can pour on him. I long to break my spear upon his crest and prove the weight of his victorious arm. For fame, I fear, hath been too prodigal in sounding through this world his partial praise.
Chaplain, hast thou surveyed our powers?
Great emperors of Egypt and Arabia, the number of your hosts united is 150,000 horse, 200,000 foot, brave men at arms, courageous and full of hardiness, as frolic as the hunters in the chase of savage beasts amid the desert woods.
My mind presageth fortunate success, and Tamburlaine, my spirit doth foresee the utter ruin of thy men and thee.
Then rear your standards, let your sounding drums direct our soldiers to Damascus walls. Now, Tamburlaine, the mighty Soldan comes, and leads with him the great Arabian king, to dim thy baseness and obscurity, famous for nothing but the theft and spoil, to raise and scatter thy inglorious crew of Scythians and slavish Persians.
Now hang our bloody colours by Damascus, reflexing hues of blood upon their heads, whilst they walk quivering on their city walls, half dead for fear before they feel my wrath. Then let us freely banquet and carouse, full bowls of wine unto the god of war, that means to fill your helmets full of gold, and make Damascus spoils as you rich to you, as was to Jason Colchos golden fleece. And now, Bajazeth, hast thou any stomach?
Aye, such a stomach, cruel Tamburlaine, as I could willingly feed upon thy blood-raw heart.
Nay, thine own is easier to come by. Pluck out that, and 'twill serve thee and thy wife. Well, Zenocrate, Techelles, and all the rest fall to your victuals.
Fall to and never may your meat digest. Furies that can mask invisible, dive to the bottom of Avernus pool, and in your hands bring hellish poison up, and squeeze it in the cup of Tamburlaine. Or winged slakes of Lerna cast your stings, and leave your venoms in this tyrant's dish.
And may this banquet prove as ominous as Procnes to the adulterous Thracian king that fed upon the substance of his child.
My lord, how can you suffer these outrageous curses by these slaves of yours?
To let them see, divine Zenocrate, I glory in the curses of my foes, having the power from the imperial heaven to turn them all upon their proper heads.
I pray you, give them leave, madam. This speech is a goodly refreshing for them.
But if his highness would let them be fed, it would do them more good.
Sirrah, why fall you not too? Are you so daintily brought up, and cannot eat your own flesh?
First legions of devils shall tear thee in pieces.
Villain, knowest thou to whom thou speakst?
Oh, let him alone. Here, eat, sir. Take it from my sword's point, or I'll thrust it to thy heart.
He stamps it under his feet, my lord.
Take it up, villain, and eat it, or I will make thee slice the brawns of thy arms into carbonados and eat them.
It were better he killed his wife, and she shall sure not to be starved, and he be provided for, a month's victual beforehand.
Here is my dagger. Dispatch her while she is fat, for if she live but a while longer, she will fall into consumption with fretting, and then she will not be worth the eating.
Dost thou think that Mahomet will suffer this?
'Tis like he will, when he cannot let it.
Go to, fall to your meat. What, not a bite? Belike he hath not been watered today. Give him some drink. Oh, fast and welcome, sir, while hunger make you eat. How now, Zenocrate, doth not the Turk and his wife make a goodly show at a banquet?
Yes, my lord.
Methinks 'tis a great deal better than a consort of music.
Yet music would do well to cheer up Zenocrate. Pray thee, tell why art thou so sad? If thou wilt have a song, the Turk shall strain his voice, but why is it?
My lord, to see my father's town besieged, the country wasted where myself was born. How can it but afflict my very soul, if any love remain in you, my lord? Or if my love unto your majesty may merit favour at your highness' hands, then raise your siege from fair Damascus walls, and with my father take a friendly truce.
Zenocrate, were Egypt Jove's own land, yet would I with my sword make Jove to stoop. I will confute those blind geographers that make a triple region in the world, excluding regions which I mean to trace, and with his pen reduce them to a map, calling the provinces, cities, and towns after my name and thine, Zenocrate. Here at Damascus will I make the point that shall begin the perpendicular. And wouldst thou have me buy thy father's love with such a loss? Tell me, Zenocrate.
Honour still wait on happy Tamburlaine. Yet Give me leave to plead for him, my lord.
Content thyself, his person shall be safe, and all the friends of fair Zenocrate, if with their lives they will be pleased to yield, or may be forced to make me emperor, for Egypt and Arabia must be mine. Feed, you slave! Thou mayest think thyself happy to feed from my trencher.
Empty stomach full of idle heat draws bloody humours from my feeble parts, preserving life by hastening cruel death. My veins are pale, my sinews hard and dry, my joints benumbed. Unless I eat, I die.
Eat, Bajazeth. Let us live in spite of them. Looking, some happy powers will pity and enlarge us.
Here, Turk, wilt thou have a clean trencher?
Aye, tyrant, and more meat.
Soft, sir, you must be dieted. Too much eating will make you surfeit.
So it would, my lord, especially having so small a walk and so little exercise.
Theridamas, Techelles, and Cassini, here are the cakes you desire to finger, are they not?
Aye, my lord, but none save kings must feed with these.
It's enough for us to see them, and for Tamburlaine only to enjoy them.
Well, here is now the Soldan of Egypt, the king of Arabia, and the governor of Damascus. Now take these 3 crowns and pledge me, my contributory kings. I crown you here, Theridamas, king of Argier, Techelles, king of Fez, Usumcasane, king of Morocco. How say you this to this Turk? These are not your contributory kings.
Nor shall they long be thine, I warrant them.
Kings of Argier, Morocco, and of Fez, you that have marched with happy Tamburlaine as far as from the frozen plague of heaven unto the watery morning's ruddy bower, and thence by land into the torrid zone, deserve these titles I endow you with by valour and by magnanimity. Your birth shall be no blemish to your fame, for virtue is the font whence honour springs, and they are worthy. She investeth kings.
And since your highness hath so well vouchsafed, if we deserve them not with higher meeds than erst our states and actions have retained, take them away again, and make us slaves.
Well said, Theridamas. When holy fate shall stablish me in strong Egyptia, we mean to travel to the Antarctic pole, conquering the people underneath our feet, and be renowned as never emperors were. Zenocrate, I will not crown thee yet, until with greater honours I be graced.
Still doth this man, or rather god of war, batter our walls and beat our turrets down, and to resist with longer stubbornness or hope of rescue from the Soldan's power were but to bring our willful overthrow and make us desperate for our threatened lives. We see his tents have now been altered, with terrors to the last and cruelest hue. His coal-black colors, everywhere advanced, threaten our city with a general spoil, and if we should, with common rights of arms, offer to our safeties to his clemency, I fear the custom proper to his sword, which he observes as parcel of his fame, intending so to terrify the world, by any innovation or remorse will never be dispensed with till our deaths. Therefore, with these, our harmless virgin's sake, whose honor and whose lives rely on him, let us have hope that their unspotted prayers, their blubbered cheeks, and hearty, humble moans will melt his fury into some remorse and use us like a loving conqueror.
If humble suit or imprecations, uttered with tears of wretchedness and blood shed from the heads and hearts of all our sex, some made your wives and some your children, might have entreated your obdurate breasts to entertain some care of our securities, whilst only danger beat upon our walls, these more than dangerous warrants of our death had never been erected as they be, nor you depend on such weak helps as we.
Well, lovely virgins, think our country's care, our love of honor, loath to be enthralled to foreign powers and rough imperious yokes, would not with too much cowardice or fear, before all hope of rescue were denied, submit yourselves and us to servitude. Therefore, in that your safeties and our own, your honors, liberties, and lives were weighed in equal care and balance with our own, endure as we the malice of our stars, the wrath of Tamburlaine, and power of wars. Or be the means, the overweighing heavens have kept to qualify these hot extremes, and bring us pardon in your cheerful looks.
And here, before the majesty of heaven, the holy patrons of Egyptia, with knees and hearts submissive, we entreat grace to our words and pity to our looks, that this device may prove propitious, and through the eyes and ears of Tamburlaine convey events of mercy to his heart. Grant that these signs of victory we yield may bind the temples of his conquering head, to hide the furrowed furrows of his brow, and shadow his displeased countenance with happy looks of ruth and lenity. Leave us, my lord and loving countrymen. What simple virgins may persuade, we will.
Farewell, sweet virgins, on whose safe return depends our city, liberty, and lives.
What, are the turtles frayed out of their nests? Alas, poor fools, must you be first shall feel the sworn destruction of Damascus? They knew my custom. Could they not as well have sent ye out when first my milk-white flags, through which sweet mercy through her gentle beams reflects them on their disdainful eyes, as now in fury and incensed hate fling slaughtered terror from my coal-black tents, and tells for truth's submission comes too late.
Most happy king and emperor of the earth, image of honor and nobility, for whom the powers divine have made the world, and on whose throne the holy graces sit, in whose sweet person is comprised the sum of nature's skill and heavenly majesty. Pity our plights. Oh, pity poor Damascus. Pity old age, within whose silver hairs honor and reverence evermore have reigned. Pity the marriage bed, where many a lord, in prime and glory of his loving joy, embraceth now with tears of ruth and blood the jealous body of his fearful wife, whose cheeks and hearts so punished with conceit to think thy puissant never stayed arm will part their bodies and prevent their souls from heavens of comfort, yet their age might bear, now wax all pale and withered to the death, as well for grief. Our ruthless governor hath thus refused the mercy of thy hand, whose sceptre angels kiss and furies dread, as for the liberties, the loves, or lives. Oh, then, for these and such as we ourselves, for us, for infants, and for all our bloods that never nourished thought against thy rule, pity, oh, pity, sacred emperor, the prostrate service of this wretched town, and take in sign thereof this gilded wreath, whereto each man of rule hath given his hand, and wished, as worthy subject, happy means to be investors of their royal brows, even with a true Egyptian diadem.
Virgins, in vain you labour to prevent that which mine honour swears shall be performed. Behold my sword. What see you in that point?
Nothing but fear and fatal steel, my lord.
Your fearful minds are thick and misty then, for here sits death, there sits imperious death, keeping his circuit by the slicing edge. But I am pleased you shall not see him there. He now is seated in my horsemen's spears, and on their points his fleshless body feeds. Techelles straight go charge a few of them to charge these dames, and show my servant Death sitting in scarlet on their armed spears.
Oh, pity us!
Away with them, I
pity
say,
us!
and show them Death! I will not spare these proud Egyptians, nor change my martial observations for all the wealth of Gihon's golden waves, or for the love of Venus would she leave the angry god of arms and lie with me. They have refused the offer of their lives, and know my customs are as peremptory as wrathful planets' death or destiny. What? Have your horsemen shown the virgin's death?
They have, my lord, and on Damascus' walls have hoisted up their slaughtered carcasses.
A sight as baneful to their souls, I think, as are Thessalian drugs or Mithridate. But go, my lords, put the rest to the sword. Ah, fair Zenocrate, divine Zenocrate, fair is too foul an epithet to thee. That is thy passion for my country's love, and fear to see thy kingly father's harm. With hair dishevelled whips thy watery cheeks. And like to Flora in her morning's pride, shaking her silver tresses in the air, rains on the earth resolved pearl in showers, and sprinklest sapphires on thy shining face, where beauty, mother to the muses, sits and comments volumes with her ivory pen, taking instructions from thy flowing eyes. When that Ebea steps to heaven in silence of thy solemn evening's walk, making the mantle of the richest night, the moon, the planets, and the meteors light, there angels in their crystal armours fight a doubtful battle for my tempted thoughts, for Egypt's freedom and the Soldan's life, his life that so consumes Zenocrate, whose sorrows lay more siege unto my soul than all my army to Damascus' walls. And neither Persia's sovereign nor the Turk troubled my senses with conceit of foil so much by much as doth Zenocrate. What is beauty, saith my sufferings then, if all the pens that ever poets held had fed the feeling of their master's thoughts, and every sweetness that inspired their hearts, their minds and muses on admired themes, if all the heavenly quintessence they still from their immortal flowers of poesy, wherein as in a mirror we perceive the highest reaches of a human wit, if these had made one poem's period, and all combined in beauty's worthiness, yet should there hover in their restless heads one thought, one grace, one wonder at the least, which into words no virtue can digest. But how unseemly is it for my sex, my discipline of arms and chivalry, my nature and the terror of my name, to harbour thoughts effeminate and faint, save only that in beauty's just applause, with whose instinct the soul of man is touched, and every warrior that is rapt with love of fame, of valour, and of victory must needs have beauty beat on his conceits. I thus conceiving and subduing both, that which hath stooped the chiefest of the gods, even from the fiery spangled veil of heaven, to feel the lovely warmth of shepherds' flames, and mask in cottages of strowed reeds, shall give the world to note for all my birth, that virtue solely is the sum of glory, and fashions men with true nobility. Who's within there? Hath Bajazeth been fed today?
Aye, my lord.
Bring him forth, and let us know if the town be ransacked.
The town is ours, my lord, and fresh supply of conquest and of spoil is offered us.
That's well, Techelles. What's the news?
The Soldan and the Arabian king together march on us with such eager violence as if there were no way but one with us.
No more there is not, I warrant thee, Techelles.
We know the victory is ours, my lord, but let us save the Reverend Soldan's life, for fair Zenocrate's that so laments his state.
That will we chiefly see unto Theridamas, for sweet Zenocrate, whose worthiness deserves a conquest over every heart. And now, my footstool, if I lose the field, you hope of liberty and restitution, let him stay, my masters, from the tents, till we have made us ready for the field. Pray for us, Bajazeth. We are going.
Go, never to return with victory. Millions of men encompass thee about, and gore thy body with as many wounds. Sharp-forked arrows light upon thy horse. Furies from the black Caucasus lake break up the earth with their firebrands, and force thee run upon the baneful pikes. Volleys of shot pierce through thy charmed skin, and every bullet dipped in poisoned drugs, or roaring cannons sever all thy joints, making thee mount as high as eagles soar.
Let all the swords and lances in the field stick in his breast, as in their proper rooms. At every pore let blood come dropping forth, that lingering pains may massacre his heart, and madness send his damned soul to hell.
Fair Zabina, we may curse his power, the heavens may frown, the earth for anger quake, but such a star hath influence in his sword as rules the skies and countermands the gods, more than Sumerian Styx or destiny. And then shall we in this detested guise, with shame, with hunger, and with horror stay, griping our bowels with retorqued thoughts, and have no hope to end our ecstasies.
Then is there left no Mahomet, no God, no fiend, no fortune, nor no hope of end? To our infamous monstrous slaveries, gape earth, and let the fiends infernal view a hell as hopeless and as full of fear as are the blasted banks of Erebus, where shaking ghosts with ever-howling groans hover about the ugly ferrymen to get a passage to Elysium. Why should we live? O wretches, beggars, slaves, why live we, Bajazeth, and build up nests so high the region of the air, by living long in this oppression, that all world will see and laugh to scorn the former triumphs of our mightiness in this obscure, infernal servitude?
O life more loathsome to my vexed thoughts than noisome parbreak of the Stygian snakes, which fills the nooks of hell with standing air, infecting all the ghosts with cureless griefs. O dreary engines of my loathsome sight that see my crown, my honor, and my name thrust under yoke and thraldom of a thief. Why feed ye still on day's accursed beams, and sink not quite into my tortured soul? You see, my wife, my queen and empress, brought up and propped by the hand of fame, queen of 15 contributory queens, now thrown to rooms of black objection, smeared with blots of basest drudgery, and villainous to shame, disdain, and misery, accursed Bajazeth, whose words of ruth that would with pity cheer Zabina's heart, and make our souls resolve in ceaseless tears. Sharp hunger bites upon and gripes the rubes, from whence the issues of my thoughts do break. Oh, poor Zabina, oh, my queen, fetch me some water for my burning breast, to cool and comfort me with longer date, that in the shortened sequel of my life I may pour forth my soul into thine arms, with words of love, whose moaning intercourse hath hitherto been stayed with wrath and hate of our expressless band of infliction.
Sweet Bajazeth, I will prolong thy life as long as any blood or spark of breath can quench or cool the torments of my grief.
Now, Bajazeth, abridge thy baneful days, and beat the brains out of thy conquered head, since other means are all forbidden me that may be ministers of my decay. No highest lamp of ever-living Jove, accursed day, infected with my grief, hide now thy stained face in endless night, and shut the windows of the lightsome heavens. Let ugly darkness with her rusty coach and girt with tempests, wrapped in pitchy clouds, smother the earth with never fading mists, and let her heroes from their nostrils breathe rebellious winds and dreadful thunderclaps, that in this terror Tamburlaine may live, and my pine soul, resolved in liquid air, may still excruciate his tormented thoughts. Then let the stony dart of senseless colds pierce through the center of my withered heart, and make a passage for my loathed life.
What do mine eyes behold? My husband dead, his skull all riven in twain, his brains dashed out, the brains of Bajazeth, my lord and sovereign. O Bajazeth, my husband and my lord! O Bajazeth, O Turk, O Emperor! Give him his liquor? Not I. Bring milk and fire, and my blood I bring him again. Tear me in pieces, give me the sword with a ball of wildfire upon it. Down with him, down with him! Go to my child, away, away, away. Now save the infant, save him, save him! Even I speak to her. The sun was down, streamers white, red, black, here, fling the meat in his face. Tamburlaine, Tamburlaine, let the soldiers be buried. Hell, death, Tamburlaine, hell, make ready my coach, my chair, my mules. I come.
Wretched Zenocrate, that livest to see Damascus walls dyed with Egyptians' blood, thy father's subjects and thy countrymen, the streets strowed with dissevered joints of men and wounded bodies, gasping yet for life. But most accursed, to see the sun-bright troop of heavenly virgins and unspotted maids, whose looks might make the angry god of arms to break his sword and mildly treat of love, on horsemen's lances to be hoisted up and guiltlessly endure a cruel death. For every fell and stout Tartarian steed that stamped on others with their thundering hooves, when all their riders charged their quivering spears, began to check the ground and rein themselves, gazing upon the beauty of their looks. O Tamburlaine! Wert thou the cause of this, that term'st Zenocrate thy dearest love, whose lives were dearer to Zenocrate than her own life, or aught save thine own love? But see, another bloody spectacle! Our wretched eyes, the enemies of my heart, how are ye glutted with these grievous objects? And tell my soul more tales of bleeding ruth. See, and Ebea, if they breathe or know.
No breath, no sense, no motion in them both, O madam. These their slavery hath enforced, and ruthless cruelty of Tamburlaine.
Earth, cast up fountains from thy entrails, and wet their cheeks for their untimely death. Shake with their weight in sign of fear and grief. Blush heaven that gave them honor at their birth, and let them die a death so barbarous. Those that are proud of fickle empery, and place their chiefest good in earthly pomp, behold the Turk and his great empress. O Tamburlaine, my love, sweet Tamburlaine, that fightst for scepters and for slippery crowns. Behold the Turk and his great empress, thou that in conduct of thy happy stars sleeps every night with conquest on thy brows, and yet would shun the wavering turns of war in fear and feeling of the like distress. Behold the Turk and his great empress, Almighty Jove and holy Mahomet, pardon my love. O pardon his contempt of earthly fortune and respect of pity, and let not conquest ruthlessly pursued be equally against his life incensed. In this great Turk and hapless empress. And pardon me that was not moved with ruth to see them live so long in misery. Oh, what may chance to thee, Zenocrate?
Madam, content yourself, and be resolved. Your love hath fortune so at his command, that she shall stay, and turn her wheel no more, as long as life maintains his mighty arm that fights for honour to adorn your head.
What other heavy news now brings Philemus?
Madam, your father and the Arabian king, the first effector of your excellence, come now as Turnus against Aeneas did, armed with lance into the Egyptian fields, ready for battle against my lord the king.
Now, shame and duty, love and fear present 1,000 sorrows to my martyred soul. Whom should I wish the fatal victory, when my poor pleasures are divided thus, and racked by duty from my cursed heart, my father and my first betrothed love must fight against my life and present love, wherein the change I use condemns my faith and makes my deeds infamous through the world. But as the gods, to end the Trojans' toil, prevented Turnus of Lavinia and fatally enriched Aeneas' love, so for a final issue to my griefs, to pacify my country and my love, must Tamburlaine, by their resistless powers, with virtue of a gentle victory, conclude a league of honour to my hope. Then, as the powers divine have preordained, with happy safety of my father's life, send like defence of fair Arabia.
What cursed power guides the murdering hands of this infamous tyrant soldiers, that no escape may save their enemies, nor fortune keep themselves from victory? Lie down, Arabia, wounded to the death, and let Zenocrate's fair eyes behold that, as for thou bearest these wretched arms, even so for her thou diest in these arms, leaving thy blood for witness of thy love.
Too dear a witness for such love, my lord. Behold Zenocrate, the cursed object, whose fortunes never mastered her griefs. Behold her wounded in conceit for thee, as much as thy fair body is for me.
Then shall I die with full contented heart, having beheld divine Zenocrate, whose sight with joy would take away my life, as now it bringeth sweetness to my wound. If I had not been wounded as I am, ah, that the deadly pangs I suffer now would lend an hour's license to my tongue, to make discourse of some sweet accidents have chanced thy merits in this worthless bondage, and that I might be privy to the state of thy deserved contentment and thy love. But making now a virtue of thy sight to drive all sorrow from my fainting soul, since death denies me a further cause of joy, deprived of care, my heart with comfort dies, since thy deserved hand shall close mine eyes.
Come, happy father of Zenocrate, a title higher than thy Soldan's name, though my right hand have thus enthralled thee, that princely daughter here shall set thee free. She that have calmed the fury of my sword, which had ere this been bathed in streams of blood as vast and deep as Euphrates or Nile.
Oh, side thrice welcome to my joyful soul, to see the king my father issue safe from dangerous battle of my conquering love.
Well met, my only dear Zenocrate, though with loss of Egypt and my crown.
'Twas I, my lord, that gat the victory, and therefore grieve not at your overthrow, since I shall render all into your hands, and add more strength to your dominions than ever yet confirmed the Egyptian crown. The god of war resigns his room to me, meaning to make me general of the world. Jove, viewing me in arms, looks pale and wan, fearing my power should pull him from his throne. Where'er I come, the fatal sisters sweat in grisly death by running to and fro, due to their ceaseless homage to my sword. And here in Afric, where it seldom rains, since I arrived with my triumphant host, have swelling clouds drawn from wide gaping wounds been oft resolved in purple bloody showers, a meteor that might terrify the earth and make it quake at every drop it drinks. Millions of souls sit on the banks of Styx, waiting the back return of Charon's boat. Hell and Elysium swarm with ghosts of men that I have sent from sundry foughten fields to spread my fame through hell and up to heaven. And see, my lord, a sight of strange import. Emperors and Turks lie breathless at my feet. The Turk and his great empress, as it seems, left to themselves while we were at the fight, have desperately dispatched their slavish lives. With them Arabia too hath left his life. All sights of power to grace my victory, and such are objects fit for Tamburlaine, wherein, as in a mirror, may be seen his honour that consists in shedding blood when men presume to manage arms with him.
Mighty hath God and Mahomet made thy hand, renowned Tamburlaine, to whom all kings of force must yield their crowns and emperies. I am pleased with this my overthrow, if, as beseems a person of thy state, thou hast with honour used Zenocrate.
Her state and person want no pomp, you see, and for all blot of foul inchastity I record heaven. Her heavenly self is clear. Then let me find no further time to grace her princely temples with the Persian crown. But here these kings that on my fortunes wait, and have been crowned for proved worthiness, even by this hand shall stablish them, shall now, adjoining all their hands with mine, invest her here, the Queen of Persia. What saith the noble Soldan on Zenocrate?
I yield with thanks and protestations of endless honour to thee for her love.
Then doubt I not but fair Zenocrate will soon consent to satisfy us both.
Else I should much forget myself, my lord.
Then let us set the crown upon her head that long hath lingered for so high a seat.
My hand is ready to perform the deed, for now her marriage time shall work us rest.
And here's the crown, my lord. I've set it on.
Then sit thou down, divine Zenocrate, and here we crown thee Queen of Persia, and all the kingdoms and dominions that late the power of Tamburlaine subdued, as Juno, when the giants were suppressed, that darted mountains at her brother Jove. So looks my love, shadowing in her brows triumphs and trophies for my victories. Or as Latona's daughter bent to arms, adding more courage to my conquering mind, gratify thee, sweet Zenocrate. Egyptians, Moors, and men of Asia, from Barbary unto the western India, shall pay a yearly tribute to thy sire, and from the bounds of Afric to the banks of Ganges shall his mighty arm extend. And now, my lords and loving followers that purchased kingdoms by your martial deeds, cast off your armour, put on scarlet robes, mount up your royal places of estate environed with troops of noblemen, and there make laws to rule your provinces. Hang up your weapons on Alcides' posts, for Tamburlaine makes truce with all the world. Thy first betrothed love, Arabia, shall we with honour, as beseems entomb with this great Turk and this fair empress. Then, after all these solemn exequies, we will our rites of marriage solemnize. And they all lived happily ever after.
Well, those that survived.
Well, you'll have to wait till part 2 to find out how it all goes. Yeah, because he's going to write a sequel. You know, this one's gone down quite well, and so they're gonna do another one. He's got the commission. Yeah, the audience like it, apparently. Some fun things. Okay. There's a lot of words there, but they flow pretty quick. It's one we can do. Obviously, if anyone needs to rush off, this is a long one, so if anyone needs to pop out, feel free to do so. Any thoughts from the room? We've had an audience throughout. I don't know if Brian wants to have a word in a second, but Helen is waving at the moment. Helen.
Very Christmassy.
Yes, we're recording this in the run-up to Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone at home. Unless I release this a different time of year. I don't know. It'll probably get released around now. Yeah, so yeah, nice, cheerful, happy seasonal fare. Yeah, Brian.
Oh, I just got a little story to share about it. I talked to somebody who directed a production of this once and took it on tour to schools. And he and his actors were much surprised to discover that these boys just cheered Tamburlaine at every scene. They were thrilled every time he knocked someone over or made another win. And for all its complications, I really feel like that is the heart of it. I mean, there are many complications, and that doesn't adequately describe everything that goes on in the play. But it is striking to have this end in a comic fashion, with everybody, successful and happy, honor given to all the people to whom it's due, and a marriage. That is not where you expect it to go, and that's what most interests me about this play.
Yes, and it's especially if you think of this as a play, not as a first of two. Of a play in its own right, this is how you end it. The conquering tyrant wins, and the big thing is, at the end, will his queen get her crown, and but I mean, I think the thing that sort of goes against that is the fact that Zenocrate is left alone, surrounded by corpses, as this note at the end. But I absolutely agree. I can absolutely see audiences just going, "Yay! Next slaughter! Yay!" He told you he was he's done the tents. Look, he's done the tent thing.
It's a Superman story.
Yeah. Lynn, then Eric.
And the other thing is that most of the people in the original audience would have been ordinary people. In a society where upward mobility was pretty limited, it must have been really gratifying to see, somebody who was baseborn, a shepherd, just marching around with his 7-league boots, just slaughtering everybody. It must have been really fun for people who felt like they were kind of trapped in those lower social positions to see Tamburlaine just kicking butt all over the Mediterranean.
Yeah, and what I find, it reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons with the where they do the Bond spoof. And the evil villain is actually this really great employer, and there's a great package for all of his henchmen. His great social, because he's really good. If you just become one of his men, the package, the reward package is great. You get a kingdom of your own. You get all the spoils. I mean, he's good on. If you're on his side, if you just submit, you basically get a kingdom. I mean, it's good. It's good times if you're not on the receiving end of the horrible pointy things.
You're suggesting he's in line for Employer of the Month?
I think he is. I mean, I can't. It's not like we've seen. He's not jealous of his men. He's not looking at them with suspicion, which is another trope you kind of expect any ruler to be. And that's a really interesting thing. There's absolutely no question of Theridamas has just turned his coat. Oh, I can't trust this guy. There's none of that at all. Eric, you were waving, I think.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's basically Superman directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's interesting though that you get that bit with the sort of, it ends with a marriage type thing, but that comes after like a couple basically bashing their brains out, which on stage as well, which is quite like
awesome. It's
horrifying, but also
the bodies are still there.
Yeah,
the whole time.
Because he enters and goes, "Hey, what's happened when I was off killing people?
What's all this then?"
Yeah, he's delighted by it all. He's and he's yeah. I mean, this is why I'm really fascinated by the second play, because that has a thesis in a way I don't think this play does. I mean, it does have things going on, and it does have things we can discuss in greater detail. There's a lot of stuff we can say about violence and race and other stuff that's going on here. But I'm not sure the play is actually that interested in it. It's just occasionally interested in those things. Those things are there in the visuals that we can't do. And I think that's one of the problems with just reading the text, is we can get caught up in the flow of the text. But actually the visuals are really important here to what the play is saying. I don't think we can really actually comprehend the full impact of what this is saying about race and violence and things, because we're just saying some words, and I don't think that carries stuff across. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, the reading has taken a tad over 2 hours. I suspect by the time you add in the action, which is implied, you probably added at least another 30 minutes to the runtime.
No, I really don't think it is. You think most of the battle scenes are just alarms running on and off. That you can make them long, but there aren't that long. We have battle scenes that happen while they're on stage going, shall we have a chat? So actually there aren't that many battles. There will be business that will make it longer, but it's only 5-10 minutes in real terms, because it all happens when you're sort of already on. We may have a different timing structure, I think, for Tamburlaine 2, because there is some action there that is designed to be processional. But I don't think this one is processional in that way. It will definitely be a bit longer, but it's not actually a very long play, as I was going to say, a tragedies go. It's not a tragedy, unless you're on the other side. It's structured like a comedy. I mean, it really is. I mean, does anyone ever get the impression that he's going to lose? Ever? It really isn't any sort of indication of jeopardy from his perspective.
Yeah, I hold the fates bound fast in iron chains, and with my hand turn fortune's wheel around. I mean, yeah.
His language of aspiration and heroism and of controlling everything, and nothing questions him. And early on, I mean, this gets complicated. Zenocrate praises him, and she's in the best position to have the most against him. Many signs that we're supposed to be for him.
I think Ayn Rand would have really liked this guy, and that may say something. Not, I don't know. We've had a long session, and people will start peeling off. Any additional thoughts anyone wants to throw in before I close up?
I just want to say it matters to me a lot that we got to do part one by itself, because that hardly ever happens anymore on stage. And the few times this is ever performed, it's always collapsed. You always lose the fact that it is deeply, strangely subversive in this comic ending. And in fact, it was performed by itself many times before part two came along. And now all that's preserved is kind of a Fall of Kings, rise and fall pattern with the two things combined. And I just love getting to feel the real ending.
Yeah. And actually, on that note, we're not going to do part two for a while. I mean, whether we have the numbers for a while. But I actually want us to all kind of forget what happened in part one and just see how part two stands up on its own right. Because I'm quite a champion for both plays as separate entities. I wouldn't collate the two, because I think it really kills the momentum of what these two plays are doing. I mean, two does have a bit of sequelitis, but it really is doing a different job of work to part one. Yeah, they are very different beasts. And
unlike Henry IV, part 1 and 2, which really kind of tells the same story a second time. Didn't we stop recording?
No, we haven't yet. I'm literally about to do it.
Apologies.
I haven't had a duck in a while. Eric, before I do stop the recording.
I was just going to say there are other plays where the main character is kind of a villain, but not quite. But here he's just like, it's a rise to power, and for a shepherd, he's very well spoken. You don't get the sense that he's very sort of like, we were putting all the stuff in the chat about the language, and it's like, well, yeah, this guy clearly knows what he's doing. This guy being both Marlowe and Tamburlaine. And there's a temptation for me to compare this. Like, if you performed both parts together, it would be sort of like trying to like perform a full Sejanus, which is like the rise and fall of Sejanus, which is kind of, I mean, that would be the equivalent Johnson play, which is very different. But I don't know, you never get an impression that Sejanus is a nice guy, whereas with Tamburlaine, you never really know where you stand with him.
That's the thing, is you're kind of supposed to like him even when he's doing horrible things. It's very hard. I tried quite occasionally to go, oh, well, let's try villain. Let's try cackling villain. And it rejects it. It keeps pushing against it. He's going, look, hey, someone's got to take over the world. It's me. Just stop getting in my... I'll be nice to you if you get out of my way. And it's like... Yeah, but and I think one of the problems is the people he's going up against. They're always going, well, we're going to win, aren't we? We've got lots of people, and they're usually stupid, on some level, or boastful and arrogant and things. So. Yeah.
What the play resists making him a villain, but what it does constantly is jam next to each other the evil, bloody side of him, or the violent, bloody side of him, with the poetry of him.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, when Theridamas describes him as his looks do menace heaven and dare the gods, his eyes are fixed upon the earth. His eyes are both up and down at the same time. At the end, there's a marriage with bodies all around them. He shows the virgin's death and then turns and praises Zenocrate in the next line.
Yeah, and everybody's constantly going, what a guy. All the time. Stephen, and then we will close the session.
Well, just picking up on that, really, that trajectory happens a lot in horror films, or used to, which is a huge part of it is about people being complacent and not understanding the danger they're in. And one of the things that people do say about horror is that we identify with the monster because these people are idiots. They keep splitting up and going off into the woods and going down to cellars on their own and all of that, that kind of stuff. So there's a kind of structural parallel, I think, which is still with us.
Well, I keep doing that crossover thing with horror and tragedy, and we've got one which is also sort of almost a comedy. So on that note, we're going to close this second look exploring session. We will return to Tamburlaine in some fashion. Inevitably, we're going to be doing Tamburlaine in some fashion, but just in a very different way to this. And we'll return to part 2 in this format as well. All that remains is to thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye.